One of the reasons we all love Goku so much is that he's faced all kinds of crazy situations with unflagging courage and resilience. And in this case, he did the same, even when he knew he wouldn't survive. What the mightiest enemies couldn't do, the heart virus did, by threatening even the great Goku himself. But what do you really know about the illness that nearly cost Goku his life? Make sure to stretch and do your calisthenics because we're going to jump right into some interesting facts about Goku's heart disease. Fate. If you really stop, sit down, and think about it, basically all the events of Dragon Ball Z after the arrival of Future Trunks takes place in a divergent timeline. Yeah, that's right, the show we all grew up with is technically the quirky outlier, boldly stepping away from the original planned trajectory of Universe 7. In the original uninterrupted timeline, Goku never made it more than a few years after his return from Yardrat. Vegeta, Krillin, Piccolo, and all the other Z fighters perish at the hands of androids 17 and 18. And the highest level of Saiyan power the universe ever ends up seeing is a measly ordinary Super Saiyan. No Super Saiyan 2, 3, God, Blue, nothing. Well, Broly is out there technically still, but regardless. Technically, even Boo wouldn't have ended up being reawoken by Babidi, since the most powerful fighters on Earth wouldn't have been around to provide the needed energy. Perhaps most interestingly of all, one could even argue that this timeline could much more closely resemble the original plan for Dragon Ball, where Goku never actually made it off of Namek in time. Maybe we're the ones in the alternate timeline. Super Saiyan. Remember how it felt seeing that very first Super Saiyan transformation during the Frieza saga? It really was a transformative moment in television history. And after that fight came to its exciting close, a totally new atmosphere fell over the Dragon Ball landscape. And no, we're not talking about the Blackwater Mist. No. What we're trying to say is that the stakes of the series suddenly felt off. At that point in the series, Super Saiyan really did seem like the final frontier in terms of fighting power. But as we soon discovered, that power came with a sinister price. Although much less taxing on the body than the Kaioken technique, the Super Saiyan form is certainly no walk in the park for its wielder. When a Super Saiyan transforms, their whole body undergoes an explosion in efficiency down to the cellular level. Unfortunately for Goku, this also is true for the lethal virus lurking inside his heart, meaning that every second he spends in his Super Saiyan form while infected accelerates the virus's effects drastically. Goku and friends learned about this effect much too late though, as the virus symptoms appeared at literally the worst time possible. What began as a shortness of breath quickly accelerated to Goku's complete collapse when facing Android 19 due to the stress his Super Saiyan form placed on his body. Thankfully, a virus-free Vegeta arrived in just the nick of time to clean up Goku's mess. Contagious. The exact delivery method for Goku's mysterious heart virus is never really fleshed out in the canon of the series. As far as we know, Goku's the only character in all of Dragon Ball to actually be depicted suffering from the effects of the virus. However, there certainly are several hints throughout the series that suggest the virus might in fact be capable of transmission between viable hosts. After Goku collapses from the virus when facing Android 19, Yamcha volunteers to fly him away to safety. Thinking swiftly, Piccolo suggests that Yamcha also take some of the medicine given to Goku by Future Trunks, fearing that it might be contagious. Thankfully, the disease never appears to leap from its original host, and for the most part vanishes from the franchise once Goku makes a full recovery. Future Trunks. In a different time, however, things looked quite a bit different for the denizens of Earth and the infectious menace that claimed the life of our hero. When Trunks first warns Goku of the approaching android threat, he also explains his untimely demise. What we're interested in here, however, is exactly how Trunks goes about describing the heart virus and its appearance in the future. However, even this description varies between translations of the show. In the English dub, he tells Goku that he will soon hear news about a sinister new heart virus, which he will contract. But in the original Japanese, he simply says that there currently is no cure, but they had developed one 20 years in the future. It certainly doesn't dispel the idea that the disease was rampant in the future timeline, but it definitely makes interpreting the clues a lot trickier. Main timeline. Yet another inconsistency between the Future Trunks timeline and the primary DBZ timeline is the fact that the heart virus doesn't seem to manifest anywhere else in the world other than solely inside Goku. Although, considering the varying differences between translations of the anime and manga, it's still up in the air whether or not the virus even played a major role in future Trunks' timeline, other than taking out Goku, of course. Honestly, there's a reason why this virus has been such a point of contention and interest for fans of the series. Outside of it being a pretty obvious plot device used by Toei Animation to derive the narrative of the android saga, Goku's heart virus is mostly just confusing and vague. Trunks rolls up, takes care of Frieza, warns Goku that he's gonna pass, and then pieces out without so much as a follow-up. And considering just how far things came off the rails in the years to follow, he probably should have popped in at least one more time to check in. Butterfly effect. Remember that one Dragon Ball movie where Ashton Kutcher used his time-traveling journal powers to go back in time to change events in the past, but inevitably discovered that each tiny change he made in the past resulted in catastrophic alterations to the future? Yeah, pretty sure that one was called The Sound of Thunder? Oh, no, wait, no, getting our sci-fi mixed up again. Well, regardless, loads of fiction writers have a tendency to borrow bits and pieces from other similar works, and even scientific theories to bolster the validity of their own projects. This is absolutely true in the case of Trunks' meddling with the timelines of Dragon Ball Z. And yes, we know Butterfly Effect came out way after Dragon Ball Z. Sure, he meant well by traveling back in time to warn Goku about the looming dangers, but somehow by doing so, he also unintentionally altered the order in which those events were meant to unfold. Not only did the androids somehow emerge even more powerful than the ones in his own timeline, but the symptoms of Goku's heart virus didn't materialize until much later than originally intended. If only the virus had appeared sooner, Goku could have taken his medicine like instructed, rode out the disease in the comfort of his own home, and gotten back into tip-top shape long before Gero and his mechanized monsters ever emerged. The cure. This one's a bit of a given, as Trunks made it abundantly clear from the get-go that there simply wasn't a cure available at the time of Goku's untimely demise. This little detail is actually clearly stated in every single translation of the show and manga, but the reasons behind the cure's development aren't quite as clear-cut. Going off the Funimation dub suggests that the heart disease might have had a larger cultural impact in Trunks' timeline. There could have been a much larger effort to discover a cure, like most epidemics in reality. But we think the cure was more likely developed as a similar last hope kind of scenario, created for the sole purpose of going back in time with Trunks in order to change the path of history. It makes sense considering how quickly the disease takes hold once its symptoms appear. Without any prior knowledge of the virus, Goku would probably attempt to treat its effects using tried and true senzu beans. Obviously to no avail. And before anyone knew what was going on, Goku would be gone. Incurable. For a franchise literally named after magical orbs whose sole purpose is to summon a legendary wish-granting dragon, its characters certainly seem to find themselves in desperate, inescapable situations more often than not. In the early years of Dragon Ball, Shenron certainly carried quite a bit more clout than he does nowadays, mostly appearing to answer questions here and there or grant large-scale resurrections or teleportations now. Seriously, how many times have they used the Dragon Balls to move groups of people from one place to another? The reason for Shenron's seemingly menial status today stems mostly from the various rules and stipulations he has concerning wishes. One of the biggest rules being that he can't grant any wish that exceeds the power of his creator, Kami. This was a major sticking point back in the Saiyan saga and even the King Piccolo saga of Dragon Ball, as Shenron was rendered powerless against these powerful foes. Because of this, Shenron would be ultimately unable to do anything in regards to healing Goku's heart disease, as the very cells within his body have reached a level of strength that Shenron simply can't match. It's gotta be pretty tough for Shenron getting knocked down to such a low level. Dragon Balls. To add even more insult to Shenron's already injured ego, even though he's proven himself more than capable of reviving people time and time again, neither he nor his big bad cousin Purunga would be capable of bringing Goku back from the dead after succumbing to the virus. This is once again all thanks to another one of the Dragon's many narratively convenient plot contrivances, rules. The specific rule in question is that Shenron cannot revive anyone who passes of natural causes. Hey, we don't make the rules. Akira Toriyama does. Heck, even if Shenron was capable of bringing Goku back from a natural end, another one of his rules at the time would still make the wish impossible, as Goku had previously been wished back to life during the Saiyan saga. Remember, this was still Kami's Shenron. Dende didn't come onto the scene until later during the Cell Saga, when Piccolo and Kami were forced to fuse as a last-ditch effort. Super Shenron, though, might have been capable of reviving Goku. So far, it doesn't seem like there's anything that golden boy can't pull off. Yardrat. This right here is probably the most interesting and potentially plausible explanation for the origin of Goku's mysterious heart disease. In all honesty, it's kind of surprising that the original showrunners hadn't thought of this. Well, maybe they did, but they still never worked it into the actual plot. This idea is that Goku actually contracted his virus during his time training to learn instant transmission on the planet Yardrat, after his victory over Frieza. This idea honestly makes the most sense, considering Goku's the only person, excluding Vegeta in the manga now, which is awesome, to have ever visited Yardrat. And then immediately after returning to Earth, Trunks tells him that he's going to pass from an incredibly rare, mysterious heart disease? Yeah, that seems a bit too convenient to not be connected. Building off of that, now that Vegeta has finally arrived at Yardrat in the latest chapter of the Dragon Ball Super manga, this would be the perfect chance to reintroduce the mysterious disease to the canon. Considering the overarching themes of Moro's energy-leeching abilities, Vegeta facing the debilitating virus could be incredibly interesting to explore. We know we've always been more than confused and fascinated by Goku's mysterious ailment. More than anything, we're firm believers that he picked the disease up from Yardrat, and are curious as heck if the same might happen to Vegeta. What's your favorite fact about the heart virus? Was it something we left out? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to CBR for more Dragon Ball content all the time.